In this edition of Locked On Capitals, Alex Ovechkin beats Wayne Gretzky's road record as the Caps pick up a big win over the surging Vancouver Canucks. Let's talk about that game next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
You're Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. Yes, this podcast is also available in video form, so head on over to YouTube and check it out. And when you're on YouTube, make sure and hit that subscribe button. And if you like the videos, give it a thumbs up. It really helps grow the channel. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in this edition, this early morning edition of Locked On Capitals, your Washington Capitals take down the surging Vancouver Canucks. Yes, the Vancouver Canucks, who had a really slow start to the season, won 3 in a row, but then they faced the Washington Capitals and they fall tonight big time by a score of 5-1. We'll talk about that in the show tonight, but we will also talk about Alex Ovechkin as he beats Wayne Gretzky's record for most road goals. Every night you watch Alex Ovechkin play, he is knocking off one record after the other. And then we'll just break down the game, what went right for this Capitals team, how can they keep this going? But first, just to get it going here, your Washington Capitals do, in fact, pick up a big win tonight against a Vancouver Canucks team, like I talked about, that was playing very well as of late. They won 3 games in a row, and they face a Washington Capitals team that, let's face it, you don't really know what team you're going to have on the ice from one game to the other. You kind of rewind time a little bit. They take down the Flames in convincing fashion. Then they play a good team like the New Jersey Devils, and they fall to them, even though there was some positivity to take away from that game. And then they play a late night game against the Vancouver Canucks, who, are playing a bit better as of late. But this was a Washington Capitals team that was dialed in. This was a team, all 4 lines using the forecheck. They were all locked in playing. This was a team that all hands were on deck, actively trying to score goals. They were getting goals from the net front. They weren't trying for some fancy passes around the ice. This was a Capitals team that was trying to get a goal no matter what it took. And some of the goals, most notably Anthony Mantha's, was scored right from the net front there. And good on him for also getting a goal. It was also a really big night for John Carlson as well. John Carlson, 5 goals in his last 7. So just a really big night for the Washington Capitals, a statement win for this team. To be honest with you, has been struggling as of late with an identity. What kind of team are we? Are we winners? Are we losers? Can we win games? To quote John Carlson, a few games ago, he said, "We can beat any team on any given night that we want to." And the Capitals proved that tonight as they handily beat a Vancouver Canucks team in Vancouver. There's no real negativity to take away from this as a Capitals fan. This was a team working together for one goal, and that was to win a hockey game. And that's what it's all about, is winning hockey games. And the Capitals have got to continue doing this going forward as they face a Kraken team that has been playing well as of late. And then that will also have a rematch against the Flames. So if they can continue to keep this winning magic going, that would be a good thing. Going into this game, there was a good chance, that if Evgeny Kuznetsov was going to score a goal, that, if you take a look at him statistically, he has 10 career goals facing the Vancouver Canucks. So obviously everyone's attention was peaked towards Evgeny Kuznetsov. Could he, in fact, get another goal against this Canucks team? I don't know what it is about certain players and their ability to score a lot of goals against certain teams when a lot of times it's not even the same players on the ice. It's a different goaltender. It's just for whatever reason, they're able to score a lot of goals against certain teams. Again, Kuznetsov did not get a goal tonight, but just the analytics showed that he has a great history of scoring goals against the Canucks. Darcy Kemper has 12 career wins against the Canucks, and that at the analytics there show you that there's a reason why you put Darcy Kemper in net against the Canucks. For one, he's your number one goalie. Of course, that's a no-brainer. But number two, history shows that he performs really well against the Canucks. Another one, a bit of an anomaly there too as well, is Alex Ovechkin always plays very well on the road and against Canadian teams. So just all of that working together really helped the Capitals win this game tonight. It was a team that was all bought in on winning a game. You take a look at John Carlson. He is a defenseman by name, but you may have called him, the fourth forward on when the Capitals were playing out there on the line. When the line he was out there with. So if you had three forwards out there, he was almost like the fourth forward out there. He is that engaged. He is that involved, not only defensively, but also with the offense. And that is the Capitals' brand of hockey, is getting the defense into the rush and trying to score goals. And, John Carlson is doing that, and he has a long history of doing that. So good on John Carlson for not only being a great defenseman, but getting involved in the scoring. That's what the Capitals need going forward, is just to get everyone buying in and scoring more goals. So, like I said, the Canucks were coming off a 3-game winning streak, and the Capitals come into Vancouver and they show them what's up. And the Capitals end up leaving with a really huge win. And it was just, like I said, it was everyone working together. You had Strome out there feeding Ovi, just a really great goal. Mojo to Mantha, all of it working together so great for the Capitals to pick up this win, which, it was against kind of pretty tall odds, I guess I got to say. For the Caps to end up picking up a win tonight was really a big deal. So looking forward here, like I say, they have to go in and they have to face a Kraken team. That game is still being played as I'm recording this at 12:04 a.m., or it was before I hit the record button here. So it is going to be interesting to see if they can continue in their winning ways by taking down a surging Seattle Kraken team. I know that last year they weren't that great, but this year in particular, they are good. So it does look like it is going to be a formidable opponent for the Capitals to try to take down that Kraken team. So they're going to have to be prepared because they really want to keep the winning going here. Just taking a look at it out there, but Mojo to Mantha net front gets the Caps on the board 3-1. And that's what I'm talking about. One of those net front goals, that you don't have to go for the fancy pass. You don't have to try a slick slap shot. Just those dirty, greasy net front goals got the Capitals in a good position with a ton of firepower. Martin Faravari did get that empty netter, which, it takes a bit of a talent as well, because when you're shooting the puck from, a pretty great distance, to hit that net from across the ice is sometimes a bit challenging. But Martin Faravari gets on the board, and just a really great game. I was really, of course, hoping that Alex Ovechkin was going to get a hat trick. I thought he was going to get a hat trick in the first period. He scored 2 goals in the first period. He was poised to get the natural hat trick. Could you imagine if he would have got 3 goals in the first period? I think that would have been just really kind of crazy. Oftentimes he's, of course, had many hat tricks, but usually that's spread out over, the entirety of the game. So if he was going to be able to do that in the first period, I thought that was going to be a really kind of cool moment out there But the biggest takeaway from this segment here is the secret sauce for the Capitals was the net front presence. And if there's one thing that they continue to do going forward, is to use that net front presence. They had success tonight against a Vancouver Canucks team. And I think, if they could apply more of that going forward, I think that the Capitals will end up with more games in the win column. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about anyway, isn't it? Winning more games, and that's what the Capitals want to do. They want to chip away at the standings. They want to end up moving up the standings here because they have lost, quite a few games this season. For them to get in the win column and win consecutive games consistently, that's what it's all about. All right, so after the break here, we will talk about Alex Ovechkin. Every time he is on the ice, darn near every time, he is breaking another record, and it's against the greatest in NHL history, Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky. He'll take them all on. We'll talk about Alex next. Today's episode of Locked On Capitals is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends from every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. And guys, even if you're not big into gambling, you could bet on an upcoming Capitals game against the Kraken or the Flames. It makes watching the games that much more exciting. So go to BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. In this next segment, we are going to talk about Alex Ovechkin and just a really great night that he had. Alex Ovechkin got the Caps on the board first. Ovi 402nd road goal. That beats Wayne Gretzky's record. And it's not the goal that we're all talking about, the all-time goal leader. That is a goal that he is taking on as well. But for him to keep knocking off all these different accomplishments and goals and records is just really special. Alex Ovechkin scores his 12th goal of the season to give the Capitals a 1-0 lead. It marks Ovechkin's 792nd career goal. He is 80 goals shy of 800 career goals and 10 shy of passing a Gordie Howe for the second on NHL's all-time goals list. Caps are 5-3-1 when scoring first. Taking a look at the Capitals. So when Alex Ovechkin gets him on the board, that's a pretty good sign that the Capitals are going to win the game. 5-3-1, that is a pretty good thing. Strome to Ovi from the left circle, 2-0 Caps. Ovechkin was not done yet. 403 career road goals, past Wayne Gretzky for the most road goals of all time. Again, this is what I've talked about in this podcast all season, as long as I've hosted it, is that every time Alex Ovechkin is playing out on the ice, you are watching history in real time. This isn't something that you're going to, that you're going to have to look at some archival footage. This is you're seeing it in real time, and he is knocking down one goal after the other, after the other, after the other. He is closing in on 800 goals, and what a big thing that'll be, a big accomplishment as he is making his pass at trying to get past Gordie Howe for the second most goals of all time. So just a really special night for Alex Ovechkin, but in particular for tonight. Anyway, we're talking about him as he beats Wayne Gretzky for the most road goals of all time. Just a really special thing to watch out there. In what you saw tonight was an Alex Ovechkin that was engaged. There was no doubt about it when he was scoring those goals that he was going to slam them home. He was a man on a mission. And I was listening to Joby and Locker. They were talking about that he could have almost scored 5 goals tonight alone, but luck wasn't necessarily on his side, but on all of those goals. But he did score those goals tonight against Martin, a goalie. I believe that they said he has not scored a goal on yet. So just another thing that he's knocking them off one after the other is the different goalies that he has scored goals on. So just a really great night for Alex Ovechkin as we look for him to continue to keep, like I say, knocking them down one after the other after the other. The next one that he is going to face is Gordie Howe for the second most goals of all time. It is going to happen, and he will eventually at some point past Wayne Gretzky. I want to say it's in the 24 or 25 season, but it is looming, and we look forward to that as well. All right, so after the break here, we will talk about what does this Capitals team have to do to keep this going. It's great that they are able to pick up, a 1 win here and then, maybe make it 2, but how do they extend that out? How do they make it 3, 4, or maybe 5 games or even more than that? We'll talk about that next. All right, welcome back into this early morning edition of Locked On Capitals as it is 12:13 local as I'm recording this. Tonight we are talking about your Washington Capitals as they take down the Vancouver Canucks in convincing fashion. There was a lot of talk from a lot of the different NHL talking heads saying, this is a surging Vancouver Canucks team. How is this struggling Capitals team going to be able to take them down? I don't know what was spoke about in practices behind closed doors. I don't know if they had the assistant coaches and Peter Laviolette, if they were just really dialed in and going over video footage. But this was, for me, a different Capitals team than I've seen in some time. I know that they've picked up, that good win against the Calgary Flames. But this was a team that it seemed like everyone was buying in. This kind of reminds me a bit of last year when TJ Oshie last March, when he had that all players meeting, and all of a sudden it was a changed team for about 3 weeks. But the Achilles heel on the team last year was netminding, of course, and that's what ended up happening. And what went wrong is the wheels fell off because the goaltending was inconsistent. They'd pick up 1 win here and 1 win there, but then they would lose a bunch of them as well. I don't know if they had a team meeting or what happened, but it seemed to me like it was a changed Capitals team out there tonight, because to have everyone buying in, everyone pulling on that rope, everyone engaged in the forecheck, having John Carlson in the rush, making great goals. Just a really great sign for this Capitals team that, like we talked about in the show, has struggled as of late. But for whatever reason, they were dialed in tonight. And it was just a really positive sign going forward. My hope, and I want to just concentrate on the now. The Capitals won a really game in convincing fashion, 5-1. Is I want to see them be able to do that, not just, 1 game, not 2 games. I want them to be able to do that on a consistent basis. How are they going to be able to do that? By doing what they did tonight, not trying to go for the fancy pass. One of the things I'll say about this Capitals team, and I've noticed this for years, is they're a pass-happy team. When it seems like, they're making a breakaway at the net and it would be just so easy to slap the puck home, they want to just dish it off to someone else, and guess what? The goalie's there and stops it. I've heard a lot of people and NHLers say, well, you guys don't know what we see on the ice. You're watching it on television or sitting up in the stands. The net wasn't open or whatever the case may be. But if the Capitals can continue to do what they did tonight by just hammering the netminder with nets, and they don't have to be from distance. Sometimes when you apply that pressure from the net front, you can have better results than from greater distance, because the goalie sometimes has a harder time responding when you're right up in his grill, especially when it's multiple players in that case. When Anthony Mantha was up close and just drove it home, That's what they have to do. You don't have to get the fancy goals. As long as it crosses that line, it's going to count as a good goal. And that's what the Washington Capitals had success doing tonight. They need to continue that going forward. And I think this team will be poised for bigger and better things. But the great sign for me from watching this tonight, not only Alex Ovechkin getting 2 goals, that is great. We love when Alex Ovechkin does well, but it's also the other players that are getting involved. You saw Anthony Mantha get a goal. You saw Martin Ferivari get a goal. Just a really positive sign. John Carlson showing up. John Carlson, 5 goals in the last 7 games. Am I talking about a forward here? Am I talking about, a center or a wing here? No, I'm talking about a defenseman. John Carlson, the only Caps blue liner under contract after this season. Let's go ahead and keep him around here. I'm going to go ahead and say keep him around here. If you can continue to do great things like that, if you can continue to make really, sound defensive decisions, if you can continue to contribute on offense, I'm going to go ahead and say keep that person around here. And John Carlson, there is a reason that he is the only Capitals blue liner that is under contract, because he is worth his salt. He's a great defenseman, but he can also get involved in really great scoring opportunities. And that's one of the things taking a look out there is, when we take a look going in the future, are they going to want to sign, a lot of these guys are going to want to sign Dmitry Orlov to an extensive deal when this team is facing a rebuild at some point. I do think that is kind of one of the things that Capitals are going to have to take a look at going forward here. But positive signs, just continue with the winning, continue having John Carlson do great things, have Alex Ovechkin continue to keep chipping away at that total, because he is a man on a mission out there. He wants to take on Gordie Howe. He wants to beat Wayne Gretzky. And if that means him scoring that many more goals, that also means probably that many more Capitals wins. And just a really positive game to watch. It was, a lot of fun to watch. A lot of the last couple of games I've watched have kind of been, not so fun to watch, shall we say. But for the Capitals to win in convincing fashion, having this team working together, having Darcy Kemper, the number 1 netminder for your Capitals, dialed in, making great saves. It is so refreshing. If you want to take a look back, say, over last year, in the inconsistencies that this Capitals team had in net, and just the inconsistencies kind of in general on the team. So for this team to have done an about face and kind of just change their ways, at least for tonight anyway. I don't want to go ahead and say that they played great all year, but I'm going to zone in right now on just this particular game, because that's all we have right now. Hopefully they can do that in the next game against the Kraken. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to look too much in the rearview mirror. I don't want to look too far the other way. For tonight, this is where I'm looking right now. And right between these 2 lines here, the Capitals picked up a win, and they picked up a great win, and it was a team buying in, a team playing together, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I'm as I record this in the middle of the night, that is what makes me happy as a Caps fan, is just to see a team that's really all buying in, because for the last while here, it really kind of seems like the Capitals were not all buying in and all playing together. All right. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. My name is Dan Homey, and I'll talk to you again next time.